For anybody, and you guys know this, but for the folks out there, like when you are deployed and you are actively doing things, it's a weird kind of switch, and you don't think that you're in it, but you're in it.
Yeah, you need to be in. It's a self-protection mechanism. You need to be 100% dialed into what you're doing. You cannot. It sounds harsh, and this is why relationships are hard. I did the same thing. I could not be distracted by what was going on back home. And my spouse at the time, to her credit, she would say the same thing. Like I would call her every week. It was not every day. It was not texting 24 hours a day. I would call her, every couple of days, and we would talk about stuff. And, when one of the things that we talked about, and she would say the same thing to me, I'd be like, listen, I can't get into this emotional conversation that we're about to have right now, because I can't be there. I got to be here. I can't be addressing these things back here. And she would do the same thing. Sometimes I would want to broach into, a more personal or more relationship conversation. She'd be like, listen, I'm knee deep in toddler poop, and people, the kids are sick, and there are these things going on back here. I don't have time to focus on this for you. Yeah. Like, it makes it really hard.
So it's a weird switch that goes on in a focus thing. And anyway, so it's not like I picked up the phone and called her and told her like, hey, guess what? I was just blown up 3 times. Cause really, what good does that do?
Right.
So wait a minute, you did that. You still have, 3 months left on this deployment and you're still out in the field. Okay. Yeah. Let me do that. Anyway. So she found out from that. So lesson learned, if something like that happens, you 100% call as soon as you possibly can, just to say, I'm okay. That is something that I learned.
Well, and I think it's hard sometimes because you don't want to burden somebody else with your stress as well. Like things that are going on, and you understand, like you're in the context of it, you're living it. But like, when you say those words, I got blown up 3 times, and in your mind, you're like, yeah, I mean, it sucked, but I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Like what it's going to sound like to them is going to like wreck their world. And so you're like, yeah, I'm just out here with the boys, or like, I'll let you know when I know. And even in the pipeline, I think I've seen people do this where like all they do is talk about the positives, like they'll call their spouse, and all their spouse hears is that like you're hanging out with your boys and having a great time. And like, but like, cause you don't want to burden them with like, dude, I got the whole team smoked today. I almost quit. Sergeant Segmiller is super mad. He was really mad.
Well, and it's tough too. It's like, I'm doubting myself. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like you have that shame, or I don't know what word would be better than shame, but you have the weight of, convincing that spouse to go along with you. So of course you don't want to call back and go, hey, I know that I like badgered you into this decision, and you changed your life too. Like I had those problems when I was at NDOC. I had bad days, and I'm like, oh my God, I got a newborn baby and a wife that is at home trying to figure out a kid all on her own. She's essentially a single mother, and I can't tell her I had a bad day.
Mm-hmm. You had a bad day. Well, let me tell you about my day.
Buckle up, Turbo.
Yeah. The water heater started leaking. The AC's out. And of course it always happens like the day you leave on a TDY. 100% never fails. I mean, even like my wife left less than a year ago for just to go on a vacation, right? And the day after she left, we had a storm here in Las Vegas with lightning, which is super weird, and our tree in the backyard got struck and caught fire. Like what?
Why?
Yeah, like
why?
That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it's and no matter what, anytime I leave, something. It could be small, it could be large.
My favorite story about this is we're walking out. We went to Vegas. We were doing an element leader upgrade. We're walking out to the helicopters, and my mentor, good dude, CA, kind of walking behind me, and he slaps the back of my helmet as he would like. He would do that all the time. He was like an old school PJ. If you did something wrong, he would just slap the back of your helmet. So like you'd be doing something, and you just be like, bing, like what happened? It was CA smacking you. But he smacks me. He's like, hey, call your wife, idiot. He's like, you got a little bit of time before you get on this helicopter. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, his wife and my wife were very good friends. His wife was like the key spouse before my wife took it over. So I call, and here we are in Vegas. We went out the night before. We had a great dinner. Everything was cool. Vegas was fun. I'm having a good time just jobbing out. So apparently everyone in the house got like a flu, and it was so bad that everybody had diarrhea. Everybody was vomiting. So 2 young children in this house in England while I'm in Las Vegas. And I'm just kind of like doing my thing. And she was just in the trenches. I was like, are you guys okay? Should I come home? She's like, no, you shouldn't come home because I'm going to effing murder you. Yeah. She's like, she's like, we've been locked in the we had an upstairs room and it was a bathroom, but it was an English bathroom. So it was one of like the corner showers. It was super small, right?
It was 2 by 2.
It is so small. She was like, listen, I had to bring them into the bathroom to me so that I could puke and have explosive diarrhea. We've been in this bathroom for 4 hours because we can't go anywhere. And I was just like, oh my God. Like I sent her selfies of like me and the friends the night before, like, oh, check it out. All you can eat sushi. And I failed. And that was another story of how I really screwed it up.
That's actually what this
food
is.
Poisoning from that sushi.
It was worse than that. That was not. They talk about reintegration, right? Because that was a long trip. I think we were in Vegas for almost like a month and a half or something. Because when we, at that time, and Peaches knows because he was there at that time in the 321st, you would, fly across and you would stack training back to back to back because it was actually cheaper to be there for longer as opposed to like the plane flights and whatever getting back to America. So I was gone for like 40 days. And they talk about reintegration. Let me just say, she was not at the unit with a sign that said "Welcome home." She was not happy to see me. We had to have a couple of conversations. They did not go well for me. And then I was on kid duty for a couple days. It was daddy time for the young boy and the young girl. So, but that's it's ebbs and flows, like you said, Peaches. That stuff is going to happen, and unless you were super aware of it. Like you got to put yourself in their position. It doesn't work to just you do your thing and I'll do my thing. The deployment stuff is hard. It's got to be even harder this time, at this time with the connectivity that you have and the way that news spreads. And, we've all seen, Peaches, you kind of talked about it, for word of mouth sort of stuff, but they will literally black out everybody's social media. They'll be like, do not post on social media. Don't get on your phone, like trying to control the information because it spreads so quickly. And that can be a good thing.
Flip the switch on the Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. Like, that can be a good thing. Base. What do they call that?
Blackout comms.
Yeah. But there's a word for it. I want to say, isn't it named after a city? It's not. I'll think of it. There's it's like river. It's not Riverside, but it's.
Shout out Riverside, California. No, there was a specific term that they use, and I'd heard it a couple times before. I'll Google it or figure it out. But it's a good thing for connectivity because you can just FaceTime, your spouse. You can FaceTime your significant other now. You can really keep that connectivity going. But to Peach's point, sometimes you need to be dialed in. You need to be completely present. So, yeah.
I think what really helps is when both sides try to give advice to the other on how to solve the problems from whatever they're going through. It always works out. It's just do this,
It's so easy. I can't believe you didn't figure this out.
Or questioning the decisions of your spouse always works out well. Like, well, how come you just didn't take the kids to the hospital? Or how come you didn't do this or do that or whatever? Those are the things that really, really make it easy.
If you don't have any self-awareness, if you're trying to fix problems from a distance, that's gonna work out poorly, just from experience.